Meet a man who's working hard to change the landscape of community banking on the Grand Strand. Coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Myrtle Beach Herald at Myrtle Square Mall. We're focused on community banking, and we're visiting with David Morrow, the President and Chief Executive Officer with Crescent Bank. Good morning, David.
Greg, good morning.
Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me here.
It's so exciting to think. I think it was a month and a half, 2 months ago, we were standing there at Collectors Cafe at their fall art gala, and you were reminding me, Greg, Jay Huggins, my right hand, has been on your show. How the heck have you not talked? And, of course, I've been wanting to get you in since the show launched. So thanks for giving us the opportunity to get in this morning.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I know Jay did a wonderful job representing us, and obviously any opportunity to speak about the bank.
Jay was wonderful, David. You really got an amazing guy there. He is out, it seems like, not only getting incredibly involved in the community, he talked about his soccer coaching and his involvement there, the YMCA, and all the things he does.
Well, that's what community banking is, and that's I can unequivocally say that Crescent Bank wouldn't be in Myrtle Beach today if it weren't for Jay Huggins. When we made a decision to come up here and start this bank, we would not have done it, and I say we, I would not have done it had Jay not agreed to come to work with me as my partner, which we truly are partners.
Those are great words, and I bet he'd say the same dang thing. That was a great week. The whole week was focused on small business in the area, and even though we had some folks that are very large businesses like the Radisson Plaza Hotel, Myrtle Beach Convention Center, also that focus on Crescent Bank, and even, interestingly, on Carolina Trust Federal Credit Union, and learned a lot about financial institutions in the area, from some of the differences between credit unions, community banks, regional banks. It's fascinating how many different ways there are for someone to go out and either keep their money located or go out and try to seek a loan.
Well, this is a wonderful banking market. It's not by accident that when I wanted to open a community bank that I only had one place in mind, and that was Horry County and the Grand Strand, and that was also with Jay's help. So, but seriously, we love Horry County. We love the business climate. There are more entrepreneurial small business people in this market than any market I've ever worked in, and then you have my resume, and I've worked in a number of markets. So the community bank is well accepted here. The large regionals do well, but the community banks really thrive in Horry County.
Well, the fascinating thing is we're sitting with a guy who is a graduate of Spartanburg High School and Clemson University, but whose big words are, "We love Horry County." Do you still get back to the upstate, David?
Well, my folks still live there, and I have a brother and sister that live in the upstate, so I get up to visit them, but other than that, I don't get many opportunities to go back. I get to a football game or two in the fall at my old alma mater, but basically that's it.
It looked like it had been almost 3 decades in the Low Country, except maybe in the late 70s, early 80s, a little stint back in the Midlands, but almost 3 decades down here, David. What is it about the Low Country and the Strand that have really kept you so focused in this area?
Well, initially I got an opportunity to begin my banking career in Charleston, and from there just remained as a banker in the Charleston market for, I think, 8 years, and then did my stint in Columbia. And then the bank moved me back to Charleston, and then at that time I was with Bankers Trust and NCMB, and then they asked me to move to Beaufort and subsequently Hilton Head, and then I went with a large regional bank in that market, and then had the opportunity to move up here again to start Carolina First Bank in the Grand Strand in '92. So it wasn't by design, but I certainly, you couldn't drive me away from here now. It's home.
What was it about banking in your early 20s that really attracted you in the first place, coming out of Clemson? And, of course, as you said, that first position, I think, was there in Charleston at South Carolina National Bank. What was it about it in your early 20s that really pulled you in?
Probably going to tell a story on myself a little bit. My aunt was very involved in banking in Spartanburg. She was the first female officer for her bank, which was the old First National Bank, which is now part of the Wachovia system. And so there's a history there. But when I graduated from college, a lot of my friends went on to graduate school. Some went into the military, and I really didn't want to continue schooling at the time. I never said never that I wouldn't go back, but I knew that finance and banking would give me an opportunity to learn an area that every business in America is involved in. There are no businesses in America that I can think of that don't have a financial need of some description or use the monetary system to transact business. So I felt like it'd be excellent training, and that I would, rather than going to graduate school, I would get some on-the-job training and learn the banking business, which would benefit me as I moved into future careers.
Has that filtered down to your own children, David? Did they ever think about getting into the business because their daddy was in it?
Most of them, but I have two children, and both of them have said that that I work too hard for their.
Does Nancy say that too?
No, she doesn't say that. But both my boys have said, no, I don't want to do what Dad does. He works too hard. My advice to them, though, always is whatever you do, you have to work hard at it. So my youngest son actually wants to go to dental school. But he also is taking a lot of business courses, and he says, Dad, if I don't get in dental school, I probably will be a banker because, you're pretty good at it, and I'm a lot like you, so I'd probably be pretty good at it too. And he would be if that's what he made a decision to do. And my oldest son certainly could do whatever he chose to do, but he has, at this point in time, not thought too strongly about a banking career.
Well, what do you think's prompted your younger son to get interested in dental school?
Well, he initially was very interested in going to medical school. Loves children, wanted to be a pediatrician, and of course he's a junior in college now, and so every time he runs into any of the doctors in the local market or runs into anyone that discusses the medical profession, they say, "Oh, don't go into, don't become a doctor." So, So you ought to be a dentist. That seems to be the profession of choice in the medical area.
That's fascinating. Earlier this week, David, John Charles, who is the director for medical affairs at Grand Strand Regional, formerly the head of the chief of staff, and been for 15 years almost an emergency room physician. It's fascinating to hear about all those aspects of being a doctor, but also talking about many of the cuts in healthcare, some of the real decisive cuts in the industry financially and otherwise. I'm sure that must be difficult.
Well, I'm not an industry expert, but I do believe that the medical industry, the doctor side of it right now, definitely are being controlled by the insurance companies and by the major health suppliers. The dental industry to date has not seen that level of regulation and interaction by insurance companies and the larger medical companies.
As the president CEO of the bank, have you seen many clients, or not to speak directly about clients, but have you seen many folks who talk about their own industries as it relates, let's say, to the medical profession and how that has impacted them, and then how does a bank look at that, whether it's a community bank or any bank? How do they look at some of the changes that happen within an industry, whether it's medical or legal or otherwise?
Well, the medical industry is alive and well in Horry County. We have an excellent medical system here. We have several excellent hospitals, and we're beginning to cater to the baby boomers and the older gray hairs, and with that comes the need for huge medical care. And so I believe in Horry County, the medical industry is alive and well. I don't see that as an issue. Most of the physicians that I know are not suffering and are doing well in their business at this point in time.
Let's talk about community banking, David. I'm real interested, obviously, in that aspect of community banking versus, and of course, you said in '92 it was you were brought in essentially to open up. Did you say Carolina First here in the market?
That's correct. We opened in '92. Mac Whittle, who's the CEO of Carolina First, hired me to come into the Horry County market to open the first real office outside of the Greenville market. He had just acquired First Federal of Georgetown as his first major acquisition, and at that time that acquisition made the entire company $300 million.
Wow.
Today they're in excess of $10 billion and growing very rapidly. So we've seen a real success story there. But I had the opportunity to be in on the early stages of that bank, and truly a very good community bank at that time. When we came to Horry County, the job was to really open a market and introduce Carolina First to a market. And we truly introduced community banking in its true form.
And then later, I believe, did Carolina First buy out a large Myrtle Beach-based bank?
They did. In the year 2000, Carolina First acquired Anchor Bank. And that was, at that time, I left the bank. I was regional executive for the coastal region, and the opportunity to leave was created with the merger. Anchor was very, they were much larger than we were on the coast, and so their senior people really became the senior managers of the coast of Carolina First, which often happens in mergers, and that left me the opportunity to start Crescent Bank.
Yes. Well, what about that, David? Starting a bank.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. We, probably somewhere in the mid to late 90s, after I'd been with Carolina First a few years and had watched that bank grow and had experienced firsthand the opportunities that you see in the community banking arena. I knew that if I had the opportunity someday to open a community bank, I'd like to do so. So the idea was born probably in the mid to late 90s, and then the opportunity in 2000 presented itself, and here we are.
You talked about Carolina First expanding from Greenville into Georgetown and then into Myrtle, and you used the word bringing community banking into a new community. Are they still considered a community bank?
I think they call themselves a super community bank. I would probably today put them in the regional category. I haven't really seen any press releases lately that refer to that as a super community bank. I know when I was there, that's what we referred to the bank as. But Carolina First has grown into Florida, North Carolina. I think they're actually now in Virginia and several other areas by way of mergers that they've made in the last couple of years.
I've seen recently a lot, I think Tommy Bouchette, who was with us on Tuesday, and I talked about that, in that print ads about Wachovia. They have a picture of Dale Zeglin, the market president, and Nick Scherfesy, and under it says community banker. Now, Wachovia, formerly First Union, is a pretty sizable bank, and obviously, and of course, they do some amazing things in the community, but what has been that push for them to have a designee as a community banker? How do you perceive that, David?
Well, you're asking me to speak for my competition, and I surely can't do that.
Right.
But I think that community banking today is all about local decisions being made, or decisions being made in your local market, meaning that the loans are decisioned in the local market. The knowledge of the local market is very present in all of the decision-making cycles of a loan or a business transaction. And having been with the super regionals, I can tell you that for the most part, the real decisioning of credit policy and large loan decisions are not being made at the local level. They're working within policies that are set at corporate headquarters, and that's the largest difference.
Right, whether that's in Greenville or Charlotte or Winston-Salem, those decisions, those final decisions are being handled in another area. Well, of course, and probably to enable them to have a community banker. And Nick and I talked about this when he was with us on Carolina People about a month and a half ago at the Radisson. We were taping there, focusing on the March of Dimes Chef's Auction. And he said, obviously, locally we're able to now have larger lending limits where the decisions can be made locally. So there is some effort by large banks to...
There's no question that I think that all of the large super regionals now and even the nationwide banks recognize that the community banking spirit is alive and well in most communities, and they definitely are working to counteract that. Again, I will still maintain that local decisions and local decisioning of loans and the knowledge of the market still resides in the community banks.
And why does that matter, David, for a client? And I know it really does. Why does it matter if the decisions, if the board members principally are in an area and the majority of the shareholders are in an area? Is it reinvest in those funds in the community that really matters, or is it
Well, Horry County, even contrary to other counties in South Carolina, is a wonderful community banking market because of the type of businesses that are in this market typically. Typically, most of the hotels are owned by individuals that we know in this market. Most of the restaurants are owned by individuals that we know. There are chains on both ends of that spectrum.
Right.
But most of the small businesses and most of the businesses that we use and our tourists use are all locally owned. There are other markets in the state that quite a bit of the industry is large industry and potentially controlled by home offices outside the state of South Carolina, and that presents tremendous opportunities for the regional banks to do business in those markets, and they do dominate those markets, and they excel in those markets.
So in an area where not only the decisions are made locally, but oftentimes the profits are reinvested in that community.
Well, there's no question that all of the profits of our bank are reinvested in this market, and we use that reinvestment to continue to market ourselves in this market. But don't misunderstand me. There's certainly a place for the super regionals and nationwide banks because they provide an excellent service to their clientele.
Yes.
The community banks, and Horry County is a great example. As I said, with the small business aspect of this county, and also the seasonality of it. When you get to the larger regional banks, they have some canned ideas about the types of industry that they'll lend to, and I can tell you, having been with them, they're not real aggressive in the tourism market, and they're not real aggressive with tourism type businesses, restaurants. Putt golf courses, things of that nature that the tourists utilize in this market are not really things that the super regionals get involved in to a great extent.
David, it's been 2.5 years now, almost, since y'all opened doors there. I know a good while before that, as y'all were making the decisions. Crescent Bank, I think it was July 2nd. Governor Hodges was in town. It was a big day. I remember that over on 21st Avenue. What's that been like now in almost 30 months, seeing the transformation of Crescent Bank?
Well, we today are a little over $100 million in assets. We've experienced rapid growth. We've been very pleased with that. We were profitable in our 7th month of operation, which we're extremely proud of.
Yeah.
We started with the one office on 21st. We've since opened an office in North Myrtle Beach, which has created an additional opportunity and a new market for us. We're currently looking at other markets. We certainly recognize that we want to expand. We certainly want to be on the south end. We certainly anticipate that we'll be west of the waterway somewhere. So there are huge opportunities out there for us to continue to grow our market. We're currently in the process of putting the roof on our new main office on 38th. We opened in a very small facility, and quite frankly, we're cramped where we are, and it's the necessity of relocating is upon us, and we should be in our new facility in May.
If someone was to ask you what accomplishment are you most proud of since the launch back in July of 2001, would it be that in the 7th month making a profit, or how do you gauge what it would be?
Well, certainly the opportunity to to make a profit very early in your lifeline is important, because capital is really very important to our industry, and until you begin to turn a profit, you're eroding your capital base. So that was very important to us from that standpoint. The thing that I'm proudest of is the group of people that we've been able to accumulate, and the quality of bankers that are on our staff. That's the thing I'm most proud of, because without question, the employees and the people at Crescent Bank is what's going to make us successful and allow us to continue to grow into the future, and provide the level of service and the types of products that we want to provide to the Grand Strand.
How does it first happen in starting up a community bank, David? Is it the board comes together, or is there a local board that's put together, or is the CEO more or less, is he approaching people? How does that work, or how did it work for Crescent Bank?
Well, it can happen a lot of ways, but in Crescent Bank's instance, I did come up with the idea and concept, if you will, to form a community bank in Myrtle Beach. The first person I approached was Jay Huggins, as I told you before.
Yes.
We wouldn't be sitting here if Jay hadn't agreed to come to work with me. And Jay and I both bought into the philosophy that there was a need for our service in this marketplace. When we made that decision, we came up with a number of people that we thought would be good community citizens to get involved in the startup of the bank, both from a financial standpoint as well as a level of expertise in the community to guide us as we move forward in our process of opening the bank. So initially it was the two of us, and then we went out into the community and solicited our board of directors, and we were very fortunate that we were able to put together an excellent group of business people in this community that felt as we did that there was an opportunity for us to be
that is
in this
fabulous
market.
Yes, David, is there more room for community banks here in Horry County?
Well, we're the last guys in, so I'm certainly not going to say, boy, we're going to lock it out and cut it off. I think that there's there's room for competition. This is one of the fastest growing markets in the country, not just in our state. I think the next 10 years are going to be fabulous. So I think the opportunities for continued growth in our market and the ability to support that continued growth with new startups is certainly out there.
Well, that's exciting. I'm glad you said that, David, because Walt, there are different thoughts on that. I think Tommy and I talked about that on Tuesday, and there's lots of different thoughts. It seems like, as someone pointed out, they thought it was an overbanked market, 18 different banks, more than 100 branches in the county. It's geographically a giant county, but there is a lot, as you say, always emerging new businesses, small business owners, and a heck of a lot of folks coming to the area.
Well, the real key to it is to have a great business plan, to have and then to be able to implement that plan. So there are banks that are doing better than others. We've had an excellent start. We don't know what our future will be, but we certainly are excited about the opportunities that we think present itself for the future. I think that to say that other people like myself can't make that happen would be foolhardy on my behalf, to not be looking over my shoulder and recognizing that someone else is going to come after my little piece of the pie, and the piece of the pie that I'm also trying to obtain as we move forward. So
those are great words, David. What about that aspect? We got less than 3 minutes. That aspect of y'all starting up in that small facility there, the old Thomas Hogan Travel on 21st, as opposed to opening some mammoth facility anywhere in town. What was the idea behind that?
Well, obviously, cost control would be probably the first thing that you would come up with as a thought. We were looking. It takes almost a year to start a bank you don't have any revenue coming in for quite a number of months while you're in the process of organizing the bank and selling the stock and really getting to the point where you can open the doors. And so it was real important that we be as thrifty as we could. That particular facility is where we started Carolina First Bank, so I was very familiar with the facility. We had a vault, we had a night drop, we had a drive-in, so we had all of the things that you need to start a bank right in that facility, and the price was right for opening a small bank from a thrifty standpoint.
That's a very good point. If David Morrow wasn't the president and CEO of Crescent Bank, what do you think he'd be doing?
I'd be doing something in the service industry. I've been in the service industry my entire career. There's no question that that's what we do. I mean, we make loans and we take deposits, but more than anything, we're providing a service to the community and to our customers. The insurance business intrigues me. It's a very similar business to the banking business. You have to understand risk. You have to understand risk and reward. You have to understand your clients, and you have to give them good service. So that's a real closely oriented business that if I were not a banker, I probably would have looked at very closely.
When asked the biggest accomplishment in the last 30 months of Crescent Bank, he was unequivocal in the answer that it's putting together the amazing quality of staff they've put together there at Crescent Bank. It's the staff, it's the board, it's the customers of any bank, particularly a community bank, that makes it happen. And David Morrow and the folks have done just that. David, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. We want to thank David Morrow, Jay Huggins, the amazing staff and board of directors at Crescent Bank for making today's Carolina People so special.